And now it's time for The Catch, where we put a spotlight on reporting from and about the Great Lakes.
The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has proposed nationwide rules for limiting the amount of toxic forever chemicals known as PFAS in drinking water to trace amounts. MLive reporter Garrett Ellison has been following this story.
It's an important moment in public health in the United States. It's the first time that the EPA has proposed to regulate a drinking water contaminant in decades.
The term PFAS refers to thousands of chemicals that have been widely used for decades, often to make items waterproof, stain-resistant, or non-stick. The new rules would require utilities to treat drinking water if the individual chemicals PFOS and PFOA are measured above 4 parts per trillion, or if a combination of other PFAS chemicals exceeds a calculated threshold.
There was a lot of applause from the activist community who have been pushing for very stringent nationwide rules just like this for a long time.
However, some utilities and water providers see the situation differently.
They look at this as sort of an unfunded mandate and say, this is going to be expensive to comply with, and it's very likely to raise water rates on customers.
There's also the possibility of funding coming through federal grants. As details will continue to unfold, Garrett says the EPA is proposing to finalize the new limits by the end of 2023.
However, most people are expecting that deadline to be pushed because it's expected that there will be some challenges to this in court, which could, extend the timeline for implementation.
Although nearly half of all U.S. states have some PFAS drinking water regulations, the new standards would be the first enforceable national standard for a contaminant in drinking water in decades. Garrett says the national guidelines are a move in the right direction when it comes to cleaning up drinking water, but he says it's important to remember that these contaminants show up in a lot of other places too.
People get PFAS exposure through food. The food packaging materials, they can be exposed through clothing, cosmetics, carpeting. There's a lot yet to come, when it comes to news on PFAS.
It's not hard to find stunning views along the Great Lakes shorelines, but journalist Jacqueline Kehoe recently explored the little-known volcanic history of the region in a story for National Geographic.
Basically, 1.1 billion years ago, the U.S. was ripping apart, and it was happening right through the Midwest. So we are talking a molten sea, a lava ocean, just right in the center of the country. And the broken heart of the country was right in Lake Superior. This thing stretches for 1,300 miles.
This massive event is known as the Mid-Continent Rift, and the volcanic rocks it left behind are distinct and still visible at multiple sites along Lake Superior's shoreline, including at the Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park in Michigan's Upper Peninsula.
They're extra cool, I think, because they're rhyolite, and rhyolite is a stickier, more explosive rock that usually forms stratovolcanoes, and the fact that you can find that in Michigan is so wild.
Almost any land along Lake Superior is likely to have evidence of volcanic activity, including Michigan's Keweenaw Peninsula, Cooper Falls, and interstate parks in Wisconsin and the Apostle Islands.
People tend to revere the landscapes out west as being the most beautiful, when truly there's nowhere like Lake Superior. It is one of the deepest, cleanest lakes in the world, and it sits in this amazing volcanic basin that has seen a billion years of fire. It's so cool. It does not get the reputation that it deserves.
The long-running PBS show Nova has recently announced a new initiative called Climate Across America. Producer Caitlin Sachs says that this is just the latest in a long line of Nova content about our changing planet.
This project was built around trying to create and foster really engaging conversations across the country about this issue. We feel that it is our role to help inform the public about what is really going on and help foster productive discussions.
The first program, Weathering the Future, looks at 5 different regions across the United States and how those communities are adapting to the effects of climate change.
We chose our locations in order to sort of sample what some of the biggest impacts are to the country and look at solutions that can be used to start to address some of those impacts.
The second program is Chasing Carbon Zero, which explores the ambitious emissions goals recently set by the U.S. government and how we plan on achieving them.
Chasing Carbon Zero really looks at how do we stop making this problem worse? How can we stop the climate from changing so much that we're going to face really, really dire consequences?
Part of the Climate Across America initiative involves engaging other PBS stations to help amplify what their communities are doing to tackle the climate crisis at the local level.
We've been working with 10 stations around the country to help them create content that will be put out and shared on social by their station and also amplified by Nova, as well as working with middle and high school students to help them learn how to create content on climate change.
Even though climate change is an urgent issue that needs to be addressed, Caitlin hopes that the storytelling in Climate Across America gives viewers hope for the future of our planet.
My hope is that viewers walk away with a little bit of inspiration. The climate challenge is big and the stakes are high, but it is possible. I mean, there are a lot of creative, brilliant people working on this problem, and there is hope. And in fact, it's something that anyone can be a part of. In fact, everyone kind of has to be a part of it.